distance.
Yeah, bro.
All right.
Dude, you look more handsome than I do. I think I'm feeling self-conscious.
That's right.
I put a hat on because my hair looks like crap. All of a sudden, you come in looking like
No, I was
Mr. Suave. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Double R Network. As always, I'm your host, Rusty, and today we have a new guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Ricardo Rodriguez. I'm a teacher here in Monterey County. High school teacher. Yes, a high school science teacher. I guess for being more specific.
Dude, that's fantastic. How long have you been doing that for?
This would have been the fourth year.
Fourth year?
Yeah.
Here, hold on. Let me just make some adjustments real quick there.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. And so you've had a couple years of what you would consider like normal school, something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
This is the first year that it has really been broken up into a weird way. And last week I actually spoke to a high school student down here. You get a chance to view a little bit of that and see some of his experience.
I saw the video.
Yeah.
Senior.
Yep. Just turned 18. He's super excited, but his college career
should be exciting times.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's he should be looking forward to graduation and heading out to college, but right now his summer class is up in the air. His college courses for fall semester are up in the air. Even walking across the stage, he doesn't even know.
Yeah.
So, tell us what's your experience been so far from your end?
Yeah, so I'm sure, like he had mentioned, he's doing a lot of, all of it is online teaching, right, through Google Classroom.
Yeah.
From what I remember him saying, the teachers were pushing out assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we've done. So this would be this Monday, or today, started our third week of this, distance learning.
Yeah.
Last week, we still, we still viewed spring break. So, there was nothing. So it was actually like we were doing nothing.
Yeah.
So first week, obviously was an adjustment. This whole thing's an adjustment. But that's pretty much what we've been doing. We've been sending out assignments as a cohort. We've been sending out, the same assignments just so we're on the same page and kind of see what's working, what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And working through the technology troubleshoots and whatnot, and looking to see, how much time is it taking students to do this and whatnot, and what access do they have, right? Because school I work out, right, not the demographics, right, mostly Hispanic. A lot of their parents are farm workers, and so that infrastructure as far as online availability at home, whether it's there or not, it might not be the best.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them just use cellular data, right, and that can be spotty. So, picking and choosing what we can give out to them. You don't want to put out a 40-minute YouTube video and have them answer some questions, because that 40 minutes is gonna take up a lot of time, and especially if the Wi-Fi is super spotty and things like that. So
yeah, that could eat up a lot of data as well.
Yeah, so other than that, as far as the teaching aspect, that's kind of been it. Communicating with the students, obviously online, email. I know he mentioned Google Classroom. That's kind of what we use. I think that's pretty much the consensus as far as schools, as far as what they use. And yeah, that's about it. It's been definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. Just heading on to Google Classroom real quick. Why Google Classroom? Is it easy just to transfer files on?
It's because it has the whole Google Suite. The whole Google Suite. Like Google Docs, Google Sheets, slides, and all that stuff. Gmail. It just kind of incorporates everything we use.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it easier to send out assignments through Google Doc, and it just because it's all under Google, it just works kind of seamlessly, and it's pretty. I haven't used any other ones, but it gets the job done for the most part. And they continue to add features. Just like recently, they added a place where you can online meet with students, like a Google Meet.
Okay.
Obviously, Google Meet was something they had before, but now apparently came out of spring break, and they were saying how they just implemented Google Meets into Google Classroom, so it makes things a lot easier rather than kind of going two places, two websites.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of incorporated in there. But
Nice. So the seamless integration definitely helps out.
Yeah, and the students have those Chromebooks, and that's obviously Google based.
Nice. New Chromebooks are looking pretty cool these days. I did have another question. What is the response from some of the students with the transition? Have you been able to talk to them? See their
some of them just through like brief email exchanges. I think initially, right, they gave us the news. I don't remember the date, but it was a Friday.
Yeah.
Basically, we were going into a 3-day weekend, and we kept getting notifications as teachers, like, hey, make sure, maybe run through an online assignment with the students, where it's purely online. So, like, we were still in the room, but it was like, pretend you guys aren't in the same room. There's no communication verbally, you're all online. So it's like, it was one of those things where, like, get your orders in a fair, type of deal, like, because this is probably going to happen. And so that word quickly got out to students, and, they're like, oh, we closed it down, we shut it down, I saw this, and so, it was excitement, right, because students who want to be at school, right, well, majority of them, right, it's nice to have a break.
Yeah.
But they officially announced it during 6th period, which is the last period.
Okay, just so everybody's getting out then.
Yeah, so maybe like 20 minutes into it, and they just said, they came on the intercom principal and just said, hey, students, we're going on summarize, we're going on a break, take home everything you need. Once the bell rings, go to your locker, take everything you need. And as soon as they said that, like, just the energy in the room just dropped, right? You would think it would be like, something you would see in like some Disney 90s movies where people are throwing like papers in the air, right?
Running outside the stairs.
Yeah. It was like a super somber feeling, honestly. Oh. It was just like, wow, this is like really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even before that, kids were like, oh, can't wait to be off 2 weeks or whatever, and then as soon as they announced that keeping out there, it was just like a somberness in the room. It was just like, well, this is really happening. We're really, yeah. It was weird. It was definitely not the reaction I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then after the bell rang, people were getting the lockers, and it was just kind of not mayhem, but it was just like, well, do I take this? Should I take all my stuff? Am I not taking my stuff? Do I take the, what books do I need to take? And it was just like, yeah, they were telling like teachers goodbye, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Guys, so, were there students crying, or was it?
No, I didn't see any crying, because I think I've been in contact with I was talking to another student, one of my students from last year, via email, and she was like, yeah, I'm getting kind of bored here and whatnot. She's like, I didn't think it was going to go on this long. And I was like, yeah, I think that was the overall consensus, right?
Yeah.
Students who don't necessarily follow this, track this whole pandemic, were like, 2 weeks, okay, we'll come back. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what the school said. But I think for most of us, even though they said 2 weeks officially, I think it was kind of the belief that this was probably going to go on longer, right? My estimation was going to be like April 1st, and obviously we're past that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Warsaw, where they're going with that. Oh, no, and then I was like, yeah, I think that was kind of the jazz, like, right? It's kind of starting to hit students, like, yeah, we're not going back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, talking about, going back to the interview you were talking about, right? That senior.
Yes.
Such a crappy way to end this, right? And his high school experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, think of all these seniors, right, who, and you don't think you need it, and maybe a lot of them won't, but, right, it's nice to have that closure, right? Close that chapter in your life, high school.
Yeah.
And they talked about maybe doing like doing a graduation, but like later on in the year, like July, August. But, at what point have people just kind of gone over this as far as, I'm not going to go to graduation. I can't make it. I'm already out of town. I already went to college, or, who knows how this is going to play out. But how many of them don't stick around because they took off to college, if that's even available to them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just not to have that closure is going to suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this, I said, this is my 4th year. My first year teaching, I had some good relationship with students, but I started a little late in the school year. And we still built good relationships, but this class that would graduate here, 2020, is a class that, I had my full year with. Okay. So I started with. And yeah, a bunch of great relationships with these students. And it's just like, I was looking forward to every graduation I've always gone to them, right? Because, it's exciting, right, to see the students, whether even if I had them or not, right? Yeah. Their energy, their excitement just kind of rubs off on you. Yeah. It's an exciting time, right? Should be. and I was excited to celebrate this with them. You know, a lot of these students that I knew, and yeah, that's just, you know, maybe it does happen, but you know, it's not looking that way. I guess it's looking bleak.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feel, especially talking to him. You know, saying, "Hey, look, you know, your end of the school year is coming up. You know, you had some things happening, even off camera when I was talking to him too. I mean, he was just not exactly excited. You know, like most people I think would be, and that's really unfortunate because I think we're going to have one one graduating class that just totally got messed up, where the school system just didn't know what to do with them. You know." Um, he was even mentioning that some of his classes, if not all of them, have gone to pass fail.
Yeah. There's been talk of that. Nothing's been what's the word I'm looking for? Like that has been agreed upon, but
yeah,
there's been talk about just doing pass and fail. But you know, how does that affect? Obviously, he's a senior, right? He's at the finish line, but you know, like a freshman, how does that? If we do pass fail, this district I work at does pass fail, but another district doesn't. They just keep it the standard, right? 4.0 GPA, or you know, standard grading. Like, how does that work with transcripts, right? Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if someone does move districts, say next year, then what happens to their previous transcripts? Does that mean you can move on to Spanish too, or that you can move up to chemistry or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's different. I guess effects that come out of, you know, the changes that we could possibly make now.
And we're obviously being a high school teacher, right? And you talking to that student earlier, right? But you think about like my niece, right? It's in kindergarten, right? She's missing like 2.5 months, right?
Yeah.
2.5 months of the school year doesn't seem like a long time, but you know, you're young like that, you're missing key components, right?
Yeah.
And you just move on to the first grade, right?
Yeah.
You know, and like with these high school students, they're, you know, I wouldn't even know what grade level, but how, I haven't talked to my sister about this, but like how is that kindergartner doing their work, you know?
Yeah.
I know initially they said they're sending out packets, but is that still happening like at the lower levels, you know what I mean? Like they just miss these important, you know, developmental time, you know, like 2.5 months. Again, doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're that age, you know, you just soak all that stuff in, right? You're trying to build them up for the next, you know, big step, which is obviously first grade. But.
Oh yeah, big time. Sorry, I gotta wipe my face from my cat's hair is all on me. But yeah, no, that brings up an interesting point. I think it's going to affect everyone within the school system just a little bit differently. Because you know, moving out of the public system, college students are kind of stuck in limbo. And I have a friend who is going to Berkeley right now. Her family is in China, and so for a while she was just, you know, living here, not knowing what to do. Her family's over there, school's not happening, and so I think everyone's kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah, it is crazy. Sometimes, you know, we just go throughout the days, but sometimes I tell my wife, like, these are really crazy times, right? Legit, like crazy. Like, if you really sit back and think about it, not, you know, just being home, it starts to kind of just, you know, days start to blend, but you start to think about it like the ramifications of everything.
Yeah.
Of just this whole society with this educational system, right? Economics, right? Just this whole health industry. It's crazy.
That too. I mean, the health industry has completely changed now.
Yeah.
I mean, when did you ever hear of you know, off-site checkups where they have to like check for certain things before you even go see a doctor, or they send you home to take care of your own heart attack? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's unprecedented.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, as you know, me and my wife are expecting our child in May.
Congratulations, pre-congratulations, by the way.
Yes, thank you. She has an appointment weekly now, right? Before it was, you know, as days get closer, the due date gets closer. It's more frequent, but before that it was bi-weekly, and then now it's weekly. So we had one last Wednesday, and we have one tomorrow. But last week I went to the doctor's office, right? They had said, you know, don't take your partner if you don't, you know, if they really don't have to, you know, leave them at home type of deal.
Yeah.
But I still went. And then, you know, the doctor's office, I was hearing them talk about, you know, telling other patients on the phone, like, hey, you know, don't bring your partner if you really don't have to. And I was like, you know what, I should probably just leave, right? So I just, as soon as I called her back there, I went to the car, which sucks, right? Because, you know, I've gone to every appointment, right?
Yeah.
It's exciting, and I like to hear it myself, and sometimes live with the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it was still exciting, right? So exciting to hear that. But, then tomorrow we have one, and yeah, they're like, yeah, he can't, not me specifically, but obviously, you know, like partners can't come. It's just, yeah.
They showed it off completely.
It's crazy. And when we think about, pregnancy or delivery, right? Like, how does that look? Hopefully it doesn't change, because as of now, you can have, obviously, my wife. She has to be there, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, important part of it. But, you know, only one other person in the room, and that would be me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I assume she hasn't told me anything, but I assume that's me.
Keeping your fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, no, I would not. But, yeah, right. Previously, it was like, my mother-in-law was going to be there. Yeah, that's going to change. Right now, I'm in the nursery. I got a bunch of packages from Target, UPS, Amazon, just because we had to cancel our baby shower, and people have been graciously, you know, sending us gifts, so that's been nice. But it's, you know, it sucks, you know, like, for that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, for my wife, you know, not to be able to experience, you know, baby shower, celebrate with friends and family, first child, you know.
Yeah.
For that to be not available to her, you know, it does suck. I do feel for her. For me, obviously, I wasn't going to the baby shower anyway, but I was excited for her to, you know, celebrate, you know, this celebration with friends and family.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
yeah.
you can feel the vibes from your wife. You know, I mean,
yeah.
you can tell that it's definitely taking a toll. Not being able to do some of the things that you guys had imagined and planned would happen. Yeah. So that's it. Definitely puts a wrench in everything. If it can't happen, say at the hospital. Say the hospital gets too impacted. Did they give you other options, or did you guys talk about what?
No, they haven't given us other options, but as far as now, like this Monterey County chomp, I don't know the exact number of cases, but supposedly they're not overwhelmed with it.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that can change.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The hope, like, what if this does kind of, this area, for some whatever reasons, escalates, and you know, like, how does that work out?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like, do they say, like, I can't be there, you know? And they're even with the you know, postpartum, right? Usually, I don't know what the recovery time is, but we were talking to OBGYN, and she was just like, yeah, they're probably gonna not rush. She didn't use the word rush, but pretty much, you know, rush you out, kind of get you in, get you out, so you're not exposed to the hospital. And, you know, you think about, like, coming home and with the whole postpartum recovery, like, yeah, it is an interesting time to be a first-time parent, for sure.
Yeah, a lot. I think a lot more has landed on your lap.
Yeah, have a kid. They said it would be fun. They said, right? The joys of childbirth would be amazing. They said.
Yeah, dude.
I'm sure it's still going to be amazing, but it's definitely been, you know, something. Yeah, we will definitely remember.
Oh, for sure. You know, the meme that popped into my head was, you know, that little dog-looking guy with a cup of coffee and the entire house was on fire. He's like, this is fine.
This is fine. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, at least, you know, you're still optimistic, and it sounds like, you know, you're still getting through it, and even though it's definitely not a normal time, you're trying to find some type of normalcy through this.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good.
I'm trying to worry about things we can't control and just go from there. Even though it's harder than it really sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
I mean, you just gotta do what you gotta do, and you know, in some circumstances.
Yeah.
So, that's good. That's good. Besides the pregnancy there, I mean, did you have any animals that are having any adverse effects to the quietness outside, or?
No, with Molly, our dog, our 9-pound Chihuahua mix, has just been enjoying these daily walks pretty much. We try to go out, you know, even before this, you know, as much as possible. But, you know, there's sometimes work is tough days than others. There it is. But so sometimes we won't go, but here we're going almost daily, and for longer duration, right?
Yeah.
So she's definitely enjoying those.
The reason I bring it up is Knuckles is looking at me like she wants to go on a walk right now.
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's weird because at first, she looked a little stressed. Just as everything started to kind of unfold and things started to close down. I don't know if it was people a little skittish or something like that, but she just, totally seemed to be on edge. But now she's like sleeping more than ever. She's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's quiet. It's peaceful.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But I was just thinking about something. So what you're working right now currently, but it's not really like work. So what is your typical work day look like, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So we've been doing, as of now, and it may change. So Monday has been just like planning with our cohort of teachers,
mm-hmm.
and then Tuesday we do 8 till 10:30, one period, and then there's a 2-hour lunch window.
Oh.
And then after 12:30, there's a second period, the late period basically. So there's a morning period and late period, and then that goes for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is just like your availability for students. Like if they have additional questions, they'll email you or get in a chat, or if you want to set up meetings with your department.
So like an open office hour kind of ordeal.
Yeah, pretty much. And the 2-hour lunch window is just because they're still providing lunch to the students.
Yeah.
So they just want to make sure that you don't give, because traditionally lunch is 40 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they want to make sure they give them a 2-hour window, so if they need to make arrangements to get to school,
mm-hmm.
whether that's walking or whether they have to wait for a parent, there's a bigger window, so they have the opportunity to get lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh.
And as far as how that works, I push up the assignment at whatever time the period starts.
Yeah.
And just kind of hover around my Chromebook, just looking out for emails and whatnot, questions that might pop up. That's pretty much it. Do some planning for additional stuff. Like I've been organizing my Google Drive, right? And sometimes, as with any, profession, you're just making documents, and sometimes you make copies of copies, and you're like, why do I have 5 copies of the same thing? So I've been organizing it, putting it in folders, like this is this topic, this is that topic, type of deal. So
yeah,
been trying to at least be productive.
No, that's good. That's good. My favorite thing to do is go back in the old files, and I'm just like, resume 2012. Yeah, no, I gotta get rid of that.
Yeah, right.
That's good, dude.
That's where you get file management. Remember, same thing. Resumes resume 1, resume 2, resume 3.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wouldn't even name it. I just put resume. So I open 5 documents of resume. Okay, which one is the most recent? Which one has this job?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and that's how that's been going. And for the meetings, obviously, we've been using Google Meet, meeting with other teachers.
So still using the Google Suite with your staff and everything.
Yeah.
What is the principal's job like these days? Out of curiosity.
I don't even know. Honestly, I'm sure. I'm sure he's doing a lot.
Yeah.
I know typically every Monday and Wednesday, he was holding morning meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We'd all 150 of the staff, credential staff, would go on the Google Meet, and he would just kind of give us updates. I know a lot of it now is working with the district. What can we do so we're all the 5 high schools are on the same page?
Yeah.
What's working, what's not. Every Friday we do a little thing what's working, what's not, type of deal.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, this is the start of our 3rd week, so it's fairly new, right? It's you're just starting this whole thing all over again. You're learning how to. You're just learning everything.
Yeah.
How it's going to work.
That's probably a good thing to have, some feedback or whatever from everyone, just to kind of make sure it's working smoothly. Because like you're saying, being the pioneers of this new system, yeah, you're definitely going to have some kinks in the beginning, and it'll work its way out. I'm sure it's a little bit easier to do it now than it was first day.
Oh yeah, for sure. You kind of know the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
What does the district expect of U.S. teachers? And right now, I think I saw on your previous video, the high school student, they said a lot of it was like busy work.
Yeah.
And we tried not to do that, obviously, but I can see where the teachers might be coming from with that, because like you're trying, it's an adjustment. You're trying to balance everything. Like, what can I give them? It's hard to give information when you're not necessarily there, right? All these teachers, for the most part, there's some exceptions where they've done online teaching, right? But they're used to teaching this, having these interactions online or in person, and having these resources in person, developing these doing these practices in person, you know. And so, like, okay, how do I shift this thing where, you know, that I've been doing for, you know, X amount of years, you know, for this unit? How do I shift this to online?
Yeah.
You know, rather than, you know, just like, hey, here's a paper, you know.
Yeah.
Here's a paper, do it by Friday and turn it in. And so, like, even because, again, I teach science, right? Some of us, the science department, have put, like, together a simple, like, home lab, home experiment that students can do. Yeah. And it's not necessarily in the curriculum or in the spot in the curriculum where we're at, but it's just like seed germination, right? Putting the seed under wet down cloth and monitoring its progress, recording it. Yeah. So they're getting some scientific principles, like, you know, measuring, right? Using some type of measuring device, whether they have, you know, hopefully they have some type of ruler. Yeah. Looking at some data, how has it progressed over the course of, you know, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. So.
Well, speaking of labs, were any labs cut off from the rest of the year? Because I think there was.
Yeah, no, we were actually
a couple, right?
Yeah, no, actually that Friday we were going to. That Friday we were working on like pre-lab. Right, I was introducing the lab.
You're getting ready for the next one when you guys get out.
Because it was going to be on E. coli, right? It was going to involve E. coli, and so I'm going over the pre-lab just because, you know, I want to make sure everything's good to go. Yeah. And I was like, we're going to do this, you know, when we come back on Tuesday, because it was a 3-day weekend, you know, answer these questions. This is what we're looking at. This is what E. coli is. This is why we're doing it, you know, looking at Earth's early atmosphere. And, yeah, obviously that got scrubbed. And so that 6th period, like I was telling you, we were doing the same thing, right, talking about the lab. I was like, okay, hyping it up, right, because this is supposed to be one of the bigger labs, more hands-on labs that we've done. I was hyping it up, like, yeah, so come Tuesday, you make sure you have this done, because you don't want to miss out on this lab, right? Make sure you're here. And then they said that announcement, and I was like, well, you know, like, I don't know. You know, like they said before, like, in the middle of my little thing, you know, to kind of like, hey, man, this is going to be super cool, right? You know, I want to do this. And it was just like, well, I guess we're not going to do that lab. And so it's like, okay, well, I guess we're not. Yeah. But here, you know, let's push to this period. You know, let's do what we had planned and go from there. But clearly, there was the end. That lab was never coming. And for the end of the year lab, right? It's usually a dissection for biology.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Yeah, dissection of fetal pigs. And so students always, you know, that's. Right, like, you know about it. I did it in high school, and it's just one of those things. Like, okay, like the first question they asked on the first day of school, I was like, "Are we dissecting anything? Are we dissecting anything?" And, you know, dissections are a lot less common now than I think probably when me and you went to school.
Yes.
Around, you know, generally, you know, same years, but yeah, they're less common now. So we don't usually have one at the end, and so that's obviously not going to happen. Yeah. You know, and they would always ask, you know, like, oh, I can't wait to dissect. I can't wait. I was like, yeah, it's going to be super. You know, it's always super. It's fun, right? Yeah. And, yeah, that didn't happen.
That's a bummer. I mean, it probably saves some money, but yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, because that's something that I think everyone kind of thinks back and remembers. Oh my gosh, remember that science class we, you know, took the sheep's eye and broke, you know, played with the lens, and, you know, we did like the frog, where you like cut the frog open. I was pulling the tendons and making the leg, you know.
Yeah, and they're a lot less common now, like dissections. Yeah, unless it's probably like an anatomy class or, you know. But yeah, so there's always that big one at the end of the year that they know about, and that is not going to happen.
That's a bummer. So, I mean, what are you going to do in replace of something like that. Because I mean, from what I remember, that counted for some part of my grade. Like I couldn't just like skip out of chopping.
Yeah, usually it makes a big chunk of the fourth quarter grade.
Yeah, it was like 20% of my grade, or something like that.
Yeah,
That last week.
I haven't even got that far as
Yeah.
far as planning because I mean we're taking it day by day, week by week, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to kind of cut that and supplement it with something else.
Oh. Well, overall, I mean, that sounds pretty intense. I mean, just having to kind of be on your feet,
Yeah,
for the next couple months.
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Bobbing and weaving through all this news,
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, I guess on a brighter note, what are you doing to kind of keep your spirits up and cure the boredom?
Different things. Like we've been setting up this nursery.
Yeah.
Silver lining, right? It's giving us more time with this.
Yeah. Pick out the paint in the exact color you want. And
Yeah, yeah. So it's giving us some time with that. I've been cooking. I enjoy cooking.
Mm-hmm.
But work week. But I mean, work week works out, and you're just like, I don't want to cook. I just want to cook what I know.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've been obviously having more time. I've been looking at recipes, and I'm not really a baker, but I've been trying, some baking.
Nice.
The things that's like about that, right? Those are all consumables. So, yeah, we try to limit ourselves to one grocery run a week.
Yeah.
2 max, but I can't oh man, I want to try this recipe, but I'm missing that one thing. It's like
I know.
substitute for something. Yeah, it's like, is it worth going out there?
Dude,
So,
we wanted to make pancakes the other week, and we go in the fridge. There's like this much milk. Oh, should we go to the store?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that, and honestly, what I want to do is get into like some coding, introduction coding.
Ooh,
You guys have some extra time.
Mm.
Yeah, because I know one of the classes they'll have coming up is involves coding.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be interesting to kind of be part of that.
Is it a science / computer science?
Yeah, it's an integrated science, so there's different components of it.
Uh-huh.
Coding being obviously one of them. So
yeah. So I guess moving on to what you and I probably know a little bit better than most is so artificial intelligence is now becoming a bigger role in the science field, right? Being able to decode and figure out what DNA does, certain parts of these proteins, figuring out what different shapes can work better, as far as like the protein. I mean, there's a lot of things kind of coming out with programming with artificial intelligence and biology. At what point do you see that just becoming one thing?
yeah.
Is that soon? Is that?
I still think it's a distant future.
Yeah.
We have that conversation in our bio class I teach too. We were just in the genetics part of this school year. Mm-hmm. And one thing we do talk about, like introduction into like you're saying, AI or like bioengineering, things like that. Androids, right? You're seeing androids and robots and AIs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's probably far off. But going back to that, it's always interesting to kind of see what they think. Like I always ask the question, like, what does it mean to be alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm like obviously living human being, but my arm gets replaced with a robotic arm. My lungs get replaced by robotic lungs. It just keeps going, like some cyberpunk future, right? Like, at what point am I still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that always gets them like just mind blown. Like,
Yeah.
I never thought about that type of deal. Yeah. So that's always an interesting conversation. But
what's the most common response to at what point are you a robot? Yeah, or like what do most people say?
Yeah, for the most part, majority of them think that as long as you were once living, like you'll remain living. I was like, well, what, like I push them obviously, right? It's your job as a teacher. Like, what are we talking about? Like,
the devil's advocate.
Half my lungs, all my lungs. Like, what if I'm 100%? Right? It was just my brain, right? In this metal infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that living, and there's always the debate: what is, what isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had just, probably getting away from your question a little bit, but one thing we had talked about was like bioengineering, because I shared the pregnancy with them, right?
Did you really?
Yeah, and I was like,
okay, nice.
We were talking like bioengineering. I was like, what if me and my wife could like just like it was just like just a shopping thing, right? Like, well, I want my kid to have light brown hair, right, or straight curly hair, like at what point, like, would you do that type of deal? Would you take advantage, like selective, genes, traits, things like that?
Yeah, I want him to be 5'10", green eyes.
Yeah, and some of them, like some of them, like I want them to be athlete. I want them to, I would make sure that they're not muscular, but athletic, right, and things like that. And some of them are like, no, I wouldn't do that because that's not the way nature intended, right? Mm-hmm. And then again, being a teacher, I'm like, okay, but let's say 90% of the population, 70% of the population does it, right? Mm-hmm. And you choose not to, that's your prerogative, you and your partners. But 16 years down the line, your kid grows up and is like, well, why didn't you engineer me? I got all my peers are athletically built, mm-hmm. All this high IQs and good looking, and why you were given that opportunity? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And he's over here looking like Hunchback of Notre Dame. You're like, I don't know, I want nature.
Like nature, yeah. So and then they're always like, well, it's like, and I was like, what if they're all like super, like majority of the population is super like not advanced, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like modified, not the word I'm looking for, but mm-hmm. like altered, right?
Yeah.
Favorably altered, and you chose to just have your kid like that, and he may come out, awesome and amazing and intelligent and athletic and everything, but it's nature, right? You may not, they may not, mm-hmm. and you didn't give them that opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So you may think it's nature, right? It's the way natural order should be, but are they going to resent you because they have this genetic condition, right? And you chose not to.
Well, that's like another level of thought that I don't think a lot of people really kind of got into. Because I mean, I remember talking to you a while back just about theoretics. Like what would happen if everyone was like a designer baby, or what happened if if everyone was growing in the test tube and no one had any natural births anymore? What happens if all these things? But I never thought about next generations. Like what happens if everyone is then a designer baby? Does that make the people that were not extra special now that they're in their 30s?
Yeah.
Does it mean that they're going to be an outcast in their teens? Does that mean that they're going to be, you know what I mean? That it just opens up a can of worms again.
Yeah. Let's say, right, you have this, I don't know, medical breakthrough or scientific breakthrough where it's like, hey, we figured this out, and we can guarantee you whatever genes, traits you select, mm-hmm. Your genes, your baby is going to get, right? And it works out and it looks all good, and we have these, like you said, outcasts who weren't genetically modified, mm-hmm. but let's say they hit their 70s or 60s, and that certain population starts to break down, right? Some unforeseen circumstances, leads to all these people that were genetically altered, right?
We didn't check the telomeres.
Yeah, right. There's something wrong with telomeres, and it's just like, right. Obviously, it's fun hypotheticals to think about, but
yeah. For those of you who don't know, the telomeres is the recumbent DNA at the end of genes that just gets chopped off with every division. It determines how long you live, in short. But I think it's definitely a weird time that we're living in right now. It's great because I mean we're making a lot of medicinal breakthroughs. We're trying different drugs. We're trying different new techniques, different things. I mean, there's the idea of trying to take old medicine, combine it with new, like what most people call like Western medicine. Different things like that, and we're finding things in rainforests. We're doing, we're taking carbon dioxide out of the air. Actually, not driving right now is helping the environment. There's a lot of interesting things happening. It's just there's so much happening right now. I think that a lot of people kind of get bombarded and overwhelmed by a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, which is kind of understandable because a lot of it's like scary, right? It's kind of advancing at a high pace.
Yeah. So with like everything kind of happening, being bombarded with things, I feel like people have a hard time deciphering the difference between you know a fact, something that's been proven scientifically or
Mm-hmm.
through some other methods, and someone's opinion or someone else's conspiracy. What do you have any good ways of kind of finding the truth? Someone was
Me
saying
myself,
Snopes, or
yeah.
I don't know.
Say it again.
I was talking to someone about some website called Snopes and a few other things, but what would you say for someone trying to?
Like, see if something's like accurate, or
Yeah,
we're talking about like fact checking type of deal.
yeah,
I don't know. I just use sources that I trust, things like that.
yeah.
What kind of bring this thing back to like teaching, right? Like it's one of those things where like people are gonna have their mindset on whatever they have. They're gonna have the mindset. You can't really control that. And I tell the students all the time, right? We start talking about like the Earth and whatnot, and there was this basketball player, Kyrie Irving, right, who like spoke about the Earth being flat. And as soon as he said that, right, I knew I was gonna have all these students tell me, that the Earth is flat and this and that. It's just like, well, and initially, and this was kind of wasn't last year, maybe 3 years ago, so early on in my teaching. And I'd be like, no, because here's this, you look at this, and you look at that, this is the data, and then, just like, like, oh, Earth's flat, whatever. And I was just like, yeah, I always tell the students, like, I will present you with the data, the information, and the scientific facts, and if you choose not to believe it, then I can't control that, But my job as a science teacher is to provide you with factual information, scientific information, take a look at the data. What does the data suggest? What does it infer? And if you choose not to believe it, then I've done my job, and in each mind there's a whole other world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, was one. The flat Earth was one. What's a common one with high school students that they like conspiracy theory with science? Let me see.
There was that one that dinosaur bones aren't real. There was.
I haven't read that up.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that hasn't made it over here.
What about? Do you guys talk about vaccines at all?
No, not too much. If it comes up just in conversation, it's not necessarily in the curriculum.
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of them like anti, vax, and some of the students, you got to know your students, and some of them are just trolling, right? Get a response out of you,
Yeah.
and
I'm an anti-vaxxer, teach.
yeah. And I'm like, well, I mean, hopefully, I just tell them, like, hopefully you're vaccinated. Hopefully your parents are smart enough to vaccinate you. Hopefully you'll be smart enough to vaccinate your kids, and go from there.
Yeah. Tossing a little
you kind of know when, again, students are trolling or when they're actively want to be engaged in a thoughtful conversation, discussion.
So, I mean, question to you, because I think if I were to ever become a high school teacher, which I don't think I could, respect to you, bro, because I cannot.
You would definitely have the personality.
I do?
Yeah, you would definitely. Yeah. There's different aspects of it, but you definitely have a lot warmer, bubbly personality than I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
It's the laugh. That's what it
is.
No. So how do you put up with like you're saying, like the trollers? Like, I mean, I remember junior high, high school. Man, there was some of my students or people I went to school with. They were cruel and unusual to the teachers. So how do you deal with stuff like that?
Now, honestly, I mean, you personally obviously know me. I'm more laid back.
Yeah.
And so things don't really get to me. Obviously, I don't let things go unchecked, and I reprimand when it needs to be reprimanded. But if there are a lot of this, and I would like to think it ends with high school, right? But it doesn't. People are just looking to get a reaction out of you most of the time, and you just kind of pay no attention. Like they'll say something, like a student might say something. I'll either ignore it or just kind of give a brief like answer and just like move on type of deal. Like again, you kind of know when they're just kind of trying to be goofy and try not to engage in that.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes, I'll hit them with a little remark, right? And just kind of like a little jab type of deal.
Yeah.
Like a little subtle jab. And those students that get the subtleness of it will like chuckle, like, hey, type of deal.
Well, I mean, you've always been real quick-witted. All of a sudden, you just kind of say something in your breath.
Yeah, no, that's what the students say. They're like, how'd you come with it? I was like, I don't know, it just pops up.
Yeah.
And like, I just continue moving.
I'm
That's
smart.
pretty much what I just continue moving. Yeah. Like, all right, let's go. Let's not engage in this, Yeah. And like a lot of them are. What are the other ones? I wish I could come up with something. But yeah, there's plenty. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny. Like any of these, mainstream memes, you'll kind of just see, and it's just like, all right, let's get this. Let's keep moving along because this is doing nobody no good talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I think you lucked out because you got to skip out on all the Tiger King. Carol Baskin.
Although
memes.
I might have wanted to engage in that. I saw your last video. You guys have briefly talked about it, but yeah, it is. Yeah.
Since that last video, I've seen every episode twice.
Yeah. I tell my wife, I was like, I just miss it. I just miss it. And when I saw it and I saw the preview, I'm like, man, I don't know. I try not to watch, like mindless stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or like things like that where it kind of bothers me where it's clearly these people are in a whole other world and but it was the way they documented it was super interesting.
It was very interesting. It was documentary inception. It was Joe was doing his internet show. That producer was making his reality show, and this was the documentary about the whole thing.
And that kind of put us on me and my wife like a binge of these documentaries. We watched that, and that led us to some other murder mystery thing with some pizza delivery guy being murdered, and then we watched like conspiracy of McDonald's, not conspiracy, but the corruption of McDonald's. It's a Monopoly game.
Oh yeah,
McMillionaire or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
McMillions, and that was interesting. So we've been watching. There's another one we've been watching like these documentaries. Yeah. But it just popped in my head. I don't know what you said, but like another one, right? Was the World War III going into 2020, right? January. Yeah. And so the students were just talking about that, like, Rodriguez, what if we get drafted and this and that? And like, I'm gonna, I'm just like, well. They're like, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do this, and some of them are rightfully worried about it and things, but some of them are just, like trying to get their jokes off about potential World War III, right? Yeah,
I remember that. I mean, I think I was joking about hopping over Canada's border when I was in high school.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? That was just in January.
Yeah. Jeez. Like, now you stuck at home. Yeah. No, that's funny, dude. That's crazy, though.
Really is.
But, yeah, Manny. What else did you want to? What else do you want to chat about? Sorry, I just realized what time it was. But
what time is it?
4:20 4:50.
I mean, I'm good. My work day is over.
Work day's over.
Yeah. I think we kind of covered everything, right? School.
Yeah.
The shift to distance learning as a teacher. I mean, again, just kind of reiterate, it does suck, right, for these seniors. Mm-hmm. To have closure, right? Like all the other grades, right? They'll come back and or whenever that time is, they'll come back and work the rest of the way through this, high school career. Yeah. But these seniors not to have that closure. And again, they may push it till like August, but what part of it has already kind of that, right? These should be the high moments, right? Prom, this grad night, these I guess formal already happened, but like these memories, like these taking these tests, whether they're stressing over them or not, right? Like they should be fun times. I remember my senior year was super fun, and like tell me that just kind of ended. Like I'm trying to think of a time during high school where, let's just say, just got cut off and that was it. Right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It really is crazy. And unfortunate for these kids.
Unprecedented, like we were saying earlier. I don't think this has really ever happened in our lifetime that I can recall. I mean, the only other time that something like this could have happened was like, either World War II, maybe. It's definitely like a wartime feel,
Yeah.
Because I mean, you just look outside your window, or you step outside and there's like 3 cars.
Yeah, me and my wife were literally just talking about this, right? Like how's history going to look at this time period, right? Like, are they going to say like we overreacted, but in actuality, it seemed like no reaction because like as a society or as a country, we took the steps needed to kind of flatten this curve,
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just going to be like, yeah, that was pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was pretty bad, and thank goodness we took the steps that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling it's going to be the former, where it's like, we overreacted. See, it wasn't that bad. And in actuality, it's like, yeah, it wasn't that bad because everybody did their part, and did what they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And it could have been so much worse, but I don't think that's the way history is going to view this.
Yeah, I think because we all stayed inside, it definitely is changing the way it was going to go.
Yeah, yeah. And you see, I saw you talk about this in your video, right? The earlier video, we keep talking about the senior, how like some people are continuing to like meet up and gather, right? We just, time of this recording, right? Just Easter Sunday was past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw, I'm not on Facebook or anything, but my wife was showing these pictures like these people getting together, right? Celebrating, and and it's like, well, like, we shouldn't be doing this, right? And it's like, is this going to expand this, right? Is this going to, not expand, but lengthen this, shelter in place type of order?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, and it feels like, right, me and my wife have been taking these super precautions. I think we would have anyway, right? Because it's what we should be doing, but super precautious of, with her being pregnant. But it feels, going back to teaching, right? It feels like, when class is being rowdy, right? And you're like, okay, we're going to stay after. Those rings, but we're going to stay a minute after.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, people start to quiet down, but there's still that group of students who continue to talk, and like, okay, 2 minutes.
Yep.
Continue to talk, okay, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
While the consensus are like, dude, like, shut up, like, stay inside, like, and it just, I think that's a perfect, like, analogy. It's like, dude, like, stop going outside, this, like, we're trying to get through this. We're trying to get to lunch, you know what I mean? We're trying to get out of here.
Yeah. We want to go home.
The teacher's holding us in because you won't stop, right?
Yeah.
And you're the problem, but,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I was telling Logan that, I think we need some public shaming. We need, because, I mean, that used to be a capital punishment, right? For you to be publicly shamed in front of your peers. And that was just a thing, right? And then people just didn't want that, They're like, oh, no. I don't want to be out there on the, thing out there. Forget that. So I think in a way, people posting each other on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever you get your hands on, doing a TikTok video outside. Those people, I think should feel bad, because it does kind of ruin the control.
Yeah. That's what I said. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, not to cut you off.
I was going to say the only thing that I don't think should come out of this is normalcy, right? I don't think it should be normal to do this, right? I don't think, because I have a weird feeling that governments are going to use this as an excuse, because this was fantastic. If you wanted to control the entire population of anywhere, this is perfect, right? Hook, line, and sinker. You got your entire population to stay inside and not do jack.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even though this did help save a lot of lives, because honestly, we didn't have enough medical supplies to save everyone if we were to, socialize just like normal. We don't have the space, we don't have the medical supplies, nothing. So out of this, we're going to get more reserves. We're going to be better prepared. We're going to listen to Bill Gates when he says, "Hey, there's going to be a pandemic." or what did you say specifically? We don't need to be worried about nuclear bombs. We need to be worried about viruses.
Yeah.
And, just be smarter about what we're doing. I think, or at least I hope, that we do become smarter, and learn from our mistakes and listen to science.
You would hope so.
Yeah.
As obviously two people with science background, you would definitely hope so. But yeah, you don't. I would not say I'm optimistic on that.
Yeah.
Again, like I keep saying, like it's going to be interesting the way history views this, right? In the future, like did during this year 2020, did like I think this look at the Spanish flu, which was I think one of the largest pandemics, right? Like anything, you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty bad, right? That was pretty bad, and I don't. It's interesting how this is viewed in the future. Like, did we overreact? Or there's going to be a large majority that people say, like, we overreacted, when in actuality, we, did what we needed to do to, again, like I said, flatten the curve. And that's why it may seem like an overreaction in the history books, but, this could have gone bad.
Yeah. Well, you
never
know.
It did kind of escalate, right? Like, cause I know we even in class talked about, like, hey, listen, look at these numbers. Like, is this, like, should we be worrying about this? And we kind of took a break from the actual content where we should be on. And it's like, hey, let's look at these numbers from the World Health Organization. And this was their day one thing. This is day two. This is, day, whatever, 40. And how are the numbers changed? Because, there's lots of things where people don't want to believe it's true, right? Yeah. Everybody always thinks they're being tricked by fake news, right?
Yeah.
I hate that expression.
That's the big thing now.
Nobody wants to believe anything because everybody just throws out the fake news. And like I said earlier, right? Like, I don't know, as a science teacher, as a teacher in general, like, let's see what the data tells us, right? Like, the numbers don't lie, right? Like, if you choose not to believe this and you choose not to, think this is a big issue, then that's on you. But this is what the data says. You'll interpret it however you choose to. But
yeah. Well, I mean, that's why it was important for me to kind of, talk to you or hear from you. Like, how do you fact check? What's it, checking your sources is important. Doing a little bit of research on your own instead of just copying a link you found on Facebook and, reposting it to everyone you could possibly repost it to. It's not the way to do it.
One of the main reasons I got off Facebook is.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's funny is that I remember using Facebook when it was more of a social media platform, like a MySpace. And now I feel like it's more of a news outlet.
Yeah, a news outlet.
Yeah. But anyway, dude, thank you so much for hopping on. I hate to cut you off, but I got to start jamming up and wrapping things up here.
Good conversation as always.
Absolutely, I was really looking forward to talking with you, and I really hope you're able to come back on again.
Yeah, no, it was good to see each other. Right when you came down early this year, I think.
Yeah.
Before this whole thing happened, but I'm glad we saw each other in person. Came down here in Monterey, and it's always good to chat.
Yeah, dude, definitely. I mean, as soon as this is over, I'll try to get back up that way.
Yeah, we'll see, baby. We'll see the baby.
I know. I got to get there up after you guys have the baby.
Yeah. Should be fun. Interesting.
It will be. It will be good. Well, anyway, good luck finishing out the rest of your year. Good luck having the baby. I'm really thinking it's going to be seamless for you guys. I think everyone's just kind of a little anxious right now. But I think everything is going to be good.
Let's hope so.
All right, Ricardo. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good one, buddy. We'll catch you next time.
All right, good chatting.
Thanks, buddy.